All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get things started. Thank you all for joining here today. I think we've got a couple of first timers here on the webinar this month. So if this is your first time, welcome. And if you're back again, welcome as well. This is our monthly webinar series that we do. We do one of these every month on a different topic every month. And it's just a way to kind of share information, bring the Mazévo community together, and help everybody just get the most possible out of the system. So we've got a great webinar lined up for everybody today. Before we jump into that, I'll just share a couple of recent Mazévo updates for everybody. If you haven't been out to our website recently, earlier this week, we actually had a full makeover on our website. So it's brand new website, new design and everything. What's probably of interest to most people on this call is there's a new resources section of our website. And up there we have a whole bunch of training videos that you can browse through. We also post all the previous Mazévo Connect webinars up there. So we have a whole library of those. So a lot of resources you can check out. That's also where we post when we do a Mazévo update. There's a whole updates blog section that we have up there where we'll post, any updates that we do. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but you can subscribe to the Mazévo updates. So essentially the way it works is about every 2-3 weeks, we put out a new release of Mazévo. Usually it's got some new features, some bug fixes in it, things like that. And if you want to, you can subscribe to that update blog that's out there and put your email in, and then we'll automatically email you every time a new update comes out. So if you want to be notified of things that way, put your email in. Some of you are probably already getting those emails automatically if you're one of our main contacts on the account. But if you're not getting those or have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go over there and sign up. I'll put a link to the resources page in the chat here in a minute, so you all have that. Last thing I'm going to mention, those of you that are in higher education, which I know there's several on this call here, we're going to be at the ACUI conference next week, which is for student unions. So Dean and I are going to that. So if anybody on this call is going to be there, we would love to meet you in person. Please stop by our booth and say hi. So I'd like to take a quick minute to just introduce the other Mazévo staff that are on this call. So we've got Wendy Newland here, who is one of our trainers, along with Joe Finley. So many of you probably know them. We've got Claire DeGroat, who helps me out on the sales team, and then our CEO, Dean Evans. So it's going to be the 5 of us here with you today. And the plan for this session, we're going to do a presentation of some features that not everybody knows about. Sometimes you got to kind of dig around in Mazévo to find out about some of these things. So we just thought we would bring these to the forefront today. So we're going to be demoing and showing you several of these features and how they work here. That's various Mazévo staff are going to be presenting those. While we're going through things, if you have questions, definitely put them in the chat. We're going to do our best to try to get to all of those. We're also going to save some time at the end as well for Q&A, and you can unmute yourself and ask your questions if you want to do that at that point. But that's kind of how we're going to do this. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and Dean's going to start us off here. So I'm going to let him take over, and we'll jump into it.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to jump right in with some great little nuggets here. So I'm going to share a couple of screens here. And at this point, you should be seeing my main Mazévo menu. The first thing I want to talk about is this big orange bar at the top. I'm pretty sure some of you use this feature and some of you don't even know what this is. We call this an alert up here, and it can be, it shows up every time you log in, whether you're a requester, an ops person, an event planner, global admin, it shows at the top of your screen. You can get rid of it just by hitting the X there, but I thought I'd show you how do you put that in. So under your profile and preferences here, under account settings. So you have to be a global admin to do this. You come right in here, and then here's that message that you're seeing at the top of the screen. You put that right there. And you can, obviously you can come in and change it. The next time somebody logs in, they would get that message at the top. So it's a really quick and easy way to communicate with some of your users on things that are going on. In this case, hey, we've got reduced hours for spring break. Now I can make that go away and I don't have to worry about it. Next time I log in, it'll be there again. So that's first thing. Speeding through these here. We put a feature in recently, and I don't know that everybody knows that it's there. So I'm going to open up an event here, and it's got 5 bookings on it. It's got a ton of resources. But if I wanted to select these resources right here, normally you would come over and you would check these boxes one at a time. And we had some feedback. It's like, well, why can't you make this work more like Windows? So we did that on the grids that have these check boxes. And I'll just say most. I want to give myself a little bit of an out there. On most of these grids, if you click on the first row, anywhere in the row, it's going to select the box. Now I'm going to hold the shift key down and then come down here. So the shift key's down, and I'm going to click, and it's going to select those all at once. So for the Windows users, that's something that you would have been used to doing in Windows. Now, if I come back up here without the shift key and click, it's going to unselect everything. So it'll take a little bit of practice, but it's just like Windows where you can multi-select those. And you can hold the control key down. For your Mac users, it's the command key, and I can come down here and select others. So that's pretty much everywhere in the system. Now, there's one little caveat to this. This first column on the bookings here, that's a link. So when I click on this date, it takes me in to the bookings. Well, I can do it over here too, right? I can do the select stuff here. My point is, because that's a link, that's not the place you want to click. So you'd want to come over here. If I'm trying to select these, click over here, and it'll select those for you. So there's a few of the grids where the first column is clickable and shows you things. So you'd want to move over to the next column, and that'll just take a little trial and error to do. But that's a second little feature. Now that's pretty much everywhere. If I come over here and I'm looking at event types, well, there's that clicker right there, so I can select them over here as well. So we tried to put it everywhere, but we may have missed a few spots, but I'm pretty sure it's on all of the event tools that have that. So the next thing I want to show you, this is more for us than it is for you, but it'll help you and your users. So I'm going to click on this other browser. So I've logged in here as a requester, okay? Now, what'll happen is if one of your requesters has a problem, sometimes we'll get the phone call, and we don't know who they are and what their permissions are. We can get in there and we can look, but as a general rule of thumb, we are not going to change anybody's permissions that calls us, okay? Just so you feel safe at that. But what'll happen is we put in a way for you to customize that help message. So let me show you what I mean here. So I've messed up my requester here. So when I go into add new request, I get this message right here. So the part that you can configure is this right here. Please contact the reservations office. If you don't do anything, they're going to get this kind of generic message at the top. But you can put in a bunch of text here to say, here's who you should call, or here's an email. You can format it, splash in color and bolding and all of that. But what's really going on here is I've got a requester that doesn't have any organizations that they can make a request for. Now, that would happen is a lot with, let's say, a user's coming in first time into the system with SSO. We create their account, we give them the security that they're looking for, but they don't have any organizations that they can book on behalf of. So this is a way that you can kind of fine tune some of that for your users. The other place this message is displayed is right up here, this need help. So this is for your requesters. You'll see this only as a requester. And when you click that, there's that same message that shows up. So the next question is, well, how do I get to that message? So I'm going to come back over here. This is my administrative one where I'm logged in. We're going to go right back into account settings. And right here below the alert message, here is this message that I can put in. So you can see you've got the formatting and things like that, you know, that you can put in here. So whatever message you put in here, that's going to display on the requesters, do they need help? And if their account is misconfigured. So that'll help just get them back to you quicker, right? Sometimes when they get a hold of us, we're like, well, we can't set that. You know, that's a security thing. We don't know what group. I mean, they might go, hey, I'm with the chess club. And it's like, well, we can't grant you permissions to the chess club. So just kind of keep that in mind. But those are the first three things I wanted to show you today. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat or anything, or unmute yourself. And if not, we'll just move on. So do the links work in the help text? That's a good question, Carrie. We'll have to take a look at that. They may. If you put it in as a link, here, let's just try this. Let's just really quickly do this. I'm going to put a link in here. It may want me to do this.
Yeah.
CNN, let's insert that. So, and save that. Okay. And then let's just pop back over here. That needs to be refreshed. I'm going to have to log out and get back in here. Bear with me as I log back in. And now if I do need help, now let's just see, here's, in fact, it does work. There's your answer. Does that help? Do links work in that help text? Okay. You may need, Carrie, you may need to use that link text right here, this little icon right here that inserts the link. If you just typed in HTTPS, that may be what the problem is. It may not look like a link. So does anybody else have any questions before I turn it over to, I believe Wendy is next. So, all right, I'll stop sharing.
Okay. I'm not able to share my screen. There we go. Got it. I'm back in. Okay, so the feature that I'm going to talk about that is relatively new is report subscriptions. So let's say that, by the way, report subscriptions, you can only subscribe to a report if it is published. So let's say that you have a daily operations report, and the way you like to run it is with maybe just those two statuses, and you like to run it today plus, let's say, 4 days. So instead of just setting this up every single time, you can publish it, give it a name. I'll call this +4, and I'll make it available to my other colleagues. So I'll click on publish, and now it is officially a published report. Let me show you where you can find those. So after you log in and you go to published reports, you will see this newly created published report. And a couple of things here. First of all, because I'm the owner, I can edit it. So I can change the +4, change the name, add another filter to it. I could email this link. And in this drop-down list will be the names of users in the system that have the report viewer role. Okay. So I could email that directly to Mike Murray. I could copy the link and then take that link, place it in an email, and email it to someone. What is relatively new that has come out in October, I believe, is the ability to subscribe to a report. So now I will be emailed this report every day at 2:30-ish Mountain Time. It will come to my inbox. And then the greatest feature of all, manage subscriptions. So you can have this report emailed to other users within your Mazévo tenant. And again, these people have the report viewer role. And they will be emailed the report daily about 2:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Okay. A couple other little things here. You'll notice a heart by Today Plus 7. That's because I run that report a lot. It's one of my favorite published reports. So it moves to the top. I can click on this one. Next time I go to my published reports, they're both at the top. And then to delete a published report, just click on delete. Any questions about the subscription feature? Are we seeing any questions, Brian?
Yes, there's one from Colette's asking, can you add users who are not in Mazévo?
Not to the subscribe. They need to be in Mazévo to subscribe or the email link, but you could certainly copy the link and email it to them in an email.
Can ownership of a published report be transferred, or does it need to be recreated if there are staff changes, for example?
Recreated.
Well, not really. If you're a global admin, you can go into published reports and take control of somebody else's published report. Only if you're a global admin. Okay, so we did that. There'll be a little change owner button there that you can get to. So Wendy's in here and she owns all these reports. So she can't actually show up, but there is a link to change the ownership. So
if you're not the owner of the report.
Yeah, you'd have to be a global admin, and then so if an employee created a report, published it, and they're gone.
Yeah, I don't have any of those in my system.
Yeah, so
sorry.
So, but yeah, there is a way to do it. So
I'm the only global admin in this system, and I don't have any reports created by anybody else in my tenant.
Wendy, there's a couple of things here. Albert wants to know about changing the frequency of the emails.
At this time, no, Albert, it's daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably you had something in EMS. It was like you had it go out every week or something like that. But at this time, it's daily.
Yeah. And so JC would like to request being able to do it more, or changing the frequency on there. So anyways, that's it. So, all right. That's all the questions I'm seeing there.
Hey, over to you, Joe.
Yeah, Joe's up next. Oh, Joe, you're muted.
Joe, you're muted.
You can't have a Zoom call without saying that at least once, right?
Right.
Once. There it goes. So, sorry about that. Okay, so I've made a little slide here with some bullet points on the particular roles for additional contacts. So you may want to have additional contacts on the event or the request. Primarily, a requester becomes, by default, the primary contact of the event. But if you need to have an additional, you can add it. So at the requester role, you can add a secondary contact to that if you are the primary contact. Again, also, you may know that if you are the primary contact, you can edit your events and so forth. But if you're a secondary contact, you will not be able to edit. You will be able to view. So the requester can then also select the available contacts, but the contacts do have to be associated with the organization that is on that event or request. And then for viewing that, you will be able to view it via the request summary within the My Events area. As a global admin or event planner, with that role, you will be able to add a secondary contact type or a billing contact type. And those, again, have to be contacts that are part of the list for that organization. If they're not, and you need to still add one as a global admin or event planner with that configuration role, you can configure that on the organization or the contacts. And then viewing those contacts, you have the ability to see those in the event viewer, and I'm going to show you those as well as on the confirmations. So I'm going to start out with, I've got my requester window here. I'm going into my events. I see my events that I have. I'm going to go into this event, which is just a test one, and I'm going to look and see. I'm going to show you this request summary, and it shows that I am the only requester or contact on this as the requester. Okay, so that event summary shows it. But if I need to change it, I do have the menu here, which is add secondary contact. So by being that primary requester for this event, I can edit the event, and therefore I can actually change it to be any of those contacts that are on my organization called administration. So these are the contacts that I have on there. And then when I save it, then it does show up here in my list of who my secondary contact is, and my request summary will also display that information on here as well. Okay. As a global admin, in looking at that event or any other event that has or does not have that information, I can open that. This is the same event, and I can see that the organization now has that primary contact, the requester, and that secondary contact. But if I, as the global administrator or event planner, want to add additional contacts, I can click on the change link, which will bring me to the change of the event, where I can add additional contacts. Here's my other contacts that I can add, and then I get to select my type. So if I need to select a billing type, I can actually add that person. I'm going to put Joe Planner on that one, and then add them in. And now there's a secondary contact for John Smith and my billing for Joe Planner. Save these changes. Now under my contacts list for this event, I can see all three of them. And if I do my email confirmation button to render my confirmation for this particular event, I also have those pages load. It was not this slow before. Come on.
Say go back out and try it again.
Try it again there, I guess. Hopefully we're not experiencing an issue right now on the back end. You guys can hear me okay, right? My internet's not breaking up, right? Okay.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about this, folks. Loading.
Well, it would.
There it goes.
Yay.
And so then here's my contact list for my three contacts on my confirmation. And then I can do my normal actions here of sending or copying or creating my PDF.
And just one note there, you can actually have multiple secondary and multiple billing contacts. It's not just limited to one secondary and one billing. So,
okay. With that, as the global administrator and event planner, you can also, under this change that primary contact if you needed to as well. Remember, however, that piece I said a minute ago, the primary contact as a requester is the only one that can edit it as a requester. So John Smith here being the secondary contact can view this in their My Events, but they would not be able to change it. But if I switch this over to make Joe or John Smith the primary contact, then John Smith in his My Events would be able to edit it. So you can do those kind of things as well, because I could change the primary contact here as a global admin. A requester cannot do that, however. Okay. Did we have any questions come up there, Brian, that we can't?
Oh, yeah. Yep. There's a few out here.
Request summary.
I'll go back to Heather's question first. This was more, I think it's about the report subscriptions, but she talks about notifications in here, and she's asking, I have a department who wants notifications to go to a generic department email instead of a specific person in the department. Is that possible? So you really have to have a user email, all of the notifications and the scheduled, the subscription report subscriptions need a user email to work. Now you could create a user with that departmental email, I guess, as a way around it, but that's the way it's designed. With that, you can also forward a link to any report to anybody you want, including a departmental email address, but to get those scheduled emails that go out, it has to be an actual Mazévo user. So Joe, as far as secondary contacts go, I think you already answered this one. Will the secondary contact have access to the event in My Events?
Yep. And the answer is yes, they will have view access. I was seeing there was one in there about adding in specific types. Where was that? Oh, that was Sarah. Specific types of contacts, such as an advisor or on-site. We don't have different types other than secondary and billing at this time. However, just remember, Sarah, that we do have the event coordinator field for users that are part of the Mazévo account. You can make those people event coordinators, and then they will show up on your events as well. So sometimes that works for that internal contact that you want to have on the event.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that event coordinator shows up in that header too.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, here, event coordinator comes up in that confirmation as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Was there another one?
Yeah, JC asked, can you add those requesters during the process of adding a request, a secondary contact? And no, you have to do it after you've submitted your request, and then you go in and edit it. So
right, that is correct. The requester does not have it on the way in. It is after, once they get to the My Events, where you have the change event, and that's where you can add that in. I've already added it here, so it doesn't give me the option to add it a second time.
Okay. I think that's all of them. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right.
We'll go back to Claire next.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about tasks. Not everyone's aware of tasks. And really, what tasks are, they're just reminders, or it's a to-do list for either yourself or you and your team. So I'm going to open an event that has some tasks on it, so you can see what that looks like. And this is where they would show up. Now, if you don't have that, either there's no tasks on the event or you haven't configured them on the back end. What I can do is simply click on that, and it shows me a list of all the tasks with this event. Now, you notice you can have event tasks for the whole thing, or you could just have them on the bookings, either way. So those are those tasks. Now you can see I'm a little past due here. I could go mark them as complete. To do that, I click this and just say it's complete if I've done that. But this one here, this final catering count, you can put notes in there so you can remind yourself, well, if Brian's not available, I need to talk to George. So you can do that. And then another place that you can see tasks is when you click into Mazévo and you go to the day at a glance, you can have them automatically come in first. I've got mine set up like that. A lot of people probably have the request piece that comes in first, But if you click on this little hamburger, you can see these other areas that you can have information. So that's just another way to do that. If I go in here, we have another place that you can manage tasks. So if I click on this manage tasks, say I want to look at this week, I want to see what's going on, what people are working on, if they're behind. So if I just click search, I get a whole list and I can see what people are doing. And you notice there's some that are behind. So you could either go in there yourself and mark them as complete, or get in touch with the person that's supposed to be reviewing these. You can see who it's assigned to right here. But a lot of times what we see with this is, let's say Dean's going to be out Thursday. And so what you can do is click on his tasks, and then you can change it and you can assign it to somebody else. And then that way that person will see those tasks as well. So if you don't have things set up, where you set that up is under settings. And if you need help with this, we can help you. You can call the support center, but these are the tasks here. You can have them automatically be set up. So like this one, I have 3 days before the first booking. This one is no days, 2 days. This one doesn't have any. You can put tasks manually on any of these. So it just depends on your workflow and how you want to set this up. If you don't want to set that up on every single event, put one on that's going to say, okay, this one, finalized contract, it's going to be 7 days before the event starts. You do have to put a user on there, at least one. You can put 2, but we give you that option. And then this is where you can configure it and either have it before the first booking or after the task is created, but you've got choices there on how to do that. But that's what I wanted to show you about tasks. If anyone has any questions, I can't see that, Brian, I didn't look.
Yeah, Dina already answered the one question that came up here about assigning more than one person to a task, which you definitely can do. So, okay. Awesome.
Carrie just had one there. Yeah, Carrie, the system typically is, Mazevo is going to build the task for you based on your triggers and things like that. But other than that, only global admins and event planners can work with tasks. It's really designed for internal. So a requester can't put a task on there or things like that. So.
Brian, Teresa Sander had a question before we went to the tasks, and it was about the event coordinator. Does the event coordinator have to be tied to an organization?
No. The event coordinator is actually, you can create an event coordinator in the system. They have to be a Mazevo user though. So it can be any Mazevo user that has the event planner role. You'll see there's a checkbox that says, and I think they can be a global admin too, but there's just a checkbox on the user account that says is event coordinator or something like that. You just check that, and that's how you can create event coordinators that way. So
yeah, I'll get into it and show you. Teresa, I'll show you real quick before we talk about my topic, which is, it is right here. That box right there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about scheduled emails. Those of you that have come off of EMS, they are similar to what we used to call the group notifications. Often we get the question from customers, is there a way that we could send an email to remind our customer about their upcoming event because we're having problems with no-shows? Or is there a way to send out a reminder about their catering? Or is there a way to send an email after the event with a survey? So our recommendation for that, our solution, are scheduled emails. Now I have some scheduled emails created in here. I'll just let you take a look at some of these things for ideas. But there are triggers that can be, that actually determine what this email is going to go off of because of. So for example, this one is service. So maybe it's I've got catering added to that event. And so the catering will trigger the email to go to the customer. This one goes out always. This one goes off based on an event type, which is concert. I want to remind them to get parking because they're having a concert. These two are based on location, and that can be a building or a room tag, a collection of rooms, or just a single room. You have a room tag of a single room. This particular one is off of attendance. So the attendance I have is 100. So that will trigger an email to the customer that they need to contact security. And then you can also manually assign a scheduled email to go out. So let me just dive into one of these and show you how they are created. I'll look at my catering one. So you put in a description. That's my description. And then in the subject line, you can actually use this legend over here. And you have to be very accurate with the brackets and the capitalization that you see in there, the N, for example. So in this one, I have catering order needed for, and it will pull in the name of their event on first booking date, which will pull in the first booking date of their event just by using that legend. And then in here, I've got a message. So this is what the customer will see when they open the event. And I've got a link to the catering menu here. So just as Dean showed you the CNN and how to put a link to the CNN in the alert messages, or I'm sorry, not the alert messages, but the help text, you can do the same thing here. And then who do I want this to go to? I want it to go to my primary, but you could also have it go to your secondary person, your billing person, or just one or two of those people. This particular one is going out with every single event, and I have mine scheduled to go out one day before the event. All right, so now let me show you what they look like to the customer. Here's one. This came in at 2:30 in the morning. Don't forget your catering. And this is what it looks like for the customer. And you can see that it pulled in the event name and the first booking date. There's the message. And then the customer can click here and get to the catering menu. All right. Now, this is what it looks like on the event itself. So on this emails tab, here are the scheduled emails, and I can see that sure enough, this one went out 2:30 this morning, and then this one is scheduled to go out on March 1st. Okay, any questions on the scheduled emails or anybody using them for ideas that I didn't present there? I can't see the questions, Brian, so.
So there's one from David here. He's asking if, can these scheduled emails be set to send upon an event request? Like, thanks for your request, we'll be in touch shortly.
No, no, they can't.
Right. Okay.
Anything else?
Colette's asking about tasks and being triggered based on day of the week. Colette, we don't have that ability. You can do it based on location, which is part of your question there, but doesn't also do day of the week. We'll make a note of that, maybe look at that at some point. Let's see, Susan's asking if they can configure their own time for when the emails will be sent.
No.
There is no on that. Yeah. So yeah, they all kind of go in the middle of the night. So let's see. And Sarah's just saying they're excited to add that in here soon. So
good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're back to you, Dean.
Great. Well, the next thing I want to show you, we just kind of tuned this up, is some of the messaging. And there's a few people out there that use it, but not too many. So I thought I'd go over it again here. So let me share a couple of screens. with you. And so I've logged in here. So what we just did recently, let me back up. What we had until just recently was the ability for a requester to send a message to any event planner. And what we just added a week ago was the ability for operations personnel to also send messages to other operations people or to event planners and global admins. We don't let operations people chit chat with the requester. We just thought that it's probably something the event planner should be doing and not necessarily the operations person. So let me show you a couple of things about this messaging. So I'm going to go into manage operations here. So think of me as somebody that's doing setups and teardowns and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to this chess club meeting and I'm going to look at it real quickly and I'm going to see, hey, I've got an easel and a projector screen and some stuff here. But if I had a question about that setup, I could come over here, and this is the button that's new, and I can click this, and it's going to start a messaging channel, if you will. So right now, there's no other messages here that have occurred. So I'm going to say I want to start a conversation with Brian. And so I can pick Brian. I can pick more than one person. So this list is going to show you users of Mazevo that are either operations or event planners, okay? And so once you pick that user, so you can actually have multiple users and have a kind of a three-way conversation. And I hit start, it's now gonna come over here and it creates this new place for me to start typing a message. And so now I'll ask him, where do you want the screen? And it's just kind of like texting on your phone. Now I've just sent that to Brian, and hopefully in a second here, he will respond back to us. But the beauty of these conversations is they're all contained and stored underneath the event. So any event planner can see these conversations going back and forth. So Brian, did you send me one?
I did. So it's in the ether somewhere.
It's in the ether. Okay. Well, let me go back to my main menu here and see where my ether is. That's just the way demo. So now when I go back in there, you'll see this one. Why that wasn't showing is a good question. Probably has some kinks to work out, but it should be relatively instantaneous to come in here. And you'll see up here in the alert bell that it triggered there. I think we might have been just a little too fast for it there. It usually takes 10, 15 seconds to get there. So if I click this alert bell, it's going to show, because I've already read it right here. So it's now marked that as read, but I can come in here and see, here's things that I've read. Now, these are some things that I think, JC, you guys use messaging a lot. And a couple of the things you wanted was, if an event planner reads a message from a requester, it marks it as read for everybody else. So we now gave you the ability to go in and look and see those messages as an event planner that have been read before. And in this case, I can see a message that I've already seen. So, but that's that alert bell. We're going to make some more changes to that alert bell as well. So, but that's just one thing you can do. Now, if I come back over here, I'll go in as an event requester right here. So I'm in the same user. I've got a morning meetup. And then when they go in, there's a whole tab here for messaging. Now, there's no channel because we don't want the requester talking to an ops person or to anybody else. So we're going to direct all of that messaging from the requester directly to the event planners. So now all of the event planners would be notified. Hey, I need some extra chairs. And that'll send that off. And so any event planner in this tenant is going to see the alert bell light up and they can come back in and respond to it. But again, as this requester, it's got blinders on. So it's really conversations just between event planners and the requester. So, and anyway, so let's leave that there. And I'm going to flip over to this screen and show you Let's see. I guess I should have grabbed that event.
And Dean, can I just say that if you are not seeing messaging in your tenant, it's because it is not turned on. So send support at Go Mazévo an email and we can turn it on for you.
Some people don't want this. And we did actually hear somebody say, well, I don't want to be that accessible to a requester. So, which is okay. We get it. So that's why we've kind of moved it off into the operation side of things. So when I open that event, you can see here, this is the event planner, and that's all event planners with access to this building. And Dean Evans is the primary contact on there. So, and then here's the conversation down here. So, and don't be confused because I'm logged in on this screen as another Dean Evans, but not Dean Evans Op. So I've got a couple of users here that I'm playing with. So, but anyway, if you have questions on that, we'd encourage you to kind of play with it. If it's not turned on, it's easy to turn on. If you don't like it, we can turn it right back off for you. But it's another way to get those conversations, and the beauty of it is they're all tied to the event. So you can, as any event planner opens that event, they can see the back and forth between the operations people and the back and forth between the requester. So just another place to look at things. So, all right, that's all I've got there. Any questions on that?
Didn't see any come through there, so
okay.
Not yet anyways.
All right. I'll flip it back over to Joe.
All right. We'll try it again with volume on this time. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So my last topic here is going to be manage room closures. So we all know probably about building hours and things like that, but we also have a feature in here that lets us close just a room for a specific designated time period. And this is a global administrator or event planner that has the facilities administrator configuration on their other security tab role. Can do this function. So there's a configuration option where you put that in, and that's under the rooms area. I'm going to show you, and we'll go through those steps to put in the room closure. Room closures then will show on a gray bar on the event book for the event planner, and it will show it for the date and time that is configured. So it'll block out that, show a little gray area on that room on that bar. Then also when you're making a request, or as a global admin or event planner, it'll actually show you on the unavailable rooms that the reason for the room being unavailable is that the room is closed. Okay. So in the configuration, we go to Mazévo's configuration settings, and then we go into rooms, and we have manage room closures. And then we can add in a room closure. I have 2 in here already, but we simply select our room that we desire to close, the date range for it to be closed, and then a time frame. So if we want it to be from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Oh, I forgot to select my room. We can then select it, and that will add it in for that particular time. Okay. Now, one of the things to remember, this is closing the room at that time for all future requests for that space. Any event that was already in that space at that time will still remain there, and you do need to manually, as an administrative task, move that event or cancel that event or whatever you need to do. And again, the reason for this, or the use case for this, is typically maybe you need to do a little maintenance. You need to clear out the room so that maintenance can get in, or changing something or whatever when things are already scheduled. But once you actually add this in, then when you go through to make a request for that particular date of time, I've just started an event here, I've got to get a little bit of a head start, and I select the date and time, and now I go to my status that I want to put it in, I find my building that I want to put it in, I am going to see that that room is in the unavailable here because of a room closed option. So I cannot select that room. The same action happens for the requester in this aspect. When they're making a new request, it comes up the exact same way. Okay. So within the event book, you can see here's my first closure for the Huddle 220 room, showing that this whole time is where it is blocked out. So I had it starting at 12 a.m. on that day, running all the way through. I think I had the multiple days, so I'm going to switch over to my weekly view and zoom out, and I can see where it stops. And then I put that other one on, and it shows that specific time that I had, which was 12 until 5. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did it 12 to 5. It says 8 to 5. I can't remember now if that's what I did. Must have done 8. So this bar shows that it's out. So this is what it will show on the book. Okay. Again, remember, if you do have any events that are occurring during the time you put a blockage on, so I think I have this for the 23rd, I think I have one. Yes, here's one that I had in. I had this event already in, so it remains in there. I need to go through the change here to a different room or to a different date in order for me to move that or manage that event now. Okay. All right, I'm looking at chat for questions.
Just one in there. Susan put in, when closing a room, will it give you a message saying that there are events booked during that closed period?
And the answer is, at this time, it does not do that when you configure it to indicate how many are already in there.
Yeah, so you do that as a separate step.
Yep. And that's just to go look at it. So again, this is not like room or building closures where you're doing for a really extended period of time or regular interval. This should typically be just for 1 or maybe 2 days, sometimes maybe 3 at the most, for some kind of maintenance or something on the room that you need to close it. And also within the rooms, when you're doing the managed closures, you are making 1 closure per room if you have multiples. You do not multi-select. Again, it's more about how to manage that issue that might be related. You could have 2, you simply put 2 in here for each of those rooms.
And just a quick note, there's really no limit on the time range. So if you needed to take a room offline for a month, you could put a whole month in there. So
thanks.
All right. Well, we're getting close to our time here. I guess we could take a few minutes here at the end and open it up, and just if anybody wants to unmute themselves, ask questions, put them in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with there, but open it up. I see Heather put a comment in there on the notes field on the users.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. What Heather's talking about there, I don't know if everybody saw that in the last release. This was actually an idea from Boise State and Heather and us talking, is on every user account in Mazevo, there's now a notes field in there. So you can add, here, Dean will show it to you. You can add a note for the user, and this is especially helpful if you've got lots and lots of users in there. So you just want to keep track of where are these people from, what department are they with, whatever. You now have this notes field, which wasn't there before, where you can type anything in there you need and save it, and then that field is actually searchable. So if you're trying to find all the people, you know, in athletics or whatever, you can quickly go in and find them. So
yay, I love it. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So okay, David has a question. Is there a way to auto assign resources upon event request? No. No, when they put a request in, it's always going to come through with no resources. The user does have to initiate something. It'd probably be interesting to hear more about your use case there and you know how you would use that, I guess. But yeah, no, there's no way to do that right now. Let's see. And JC, if your questions about just admin users can see those, that was on the notes for users. Yeah, only people who can get into and see the list of users would be able to see those notes, if that's what you were referring to there. So.
Shana had a question. Can you add pictures when you do tasks? And the answer is no, it's just text. So.
Let's see. Sounds like Carrie's having some issues with contacts versus users and people becoming inactive. So I haven't heard of any of that happening, but if anybody else has, definitely chime in and report that. We'll definitely take a look. Okay. I think this is Brett, maybe. Is there a plan to have notes for an org pop up when we are making reservations for them? For example, no shows other users. Dean, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Yeah, let me go back here and share my screen. There is an alert on an organization. So if I come down here, let me see, let me find it here. I'm not seeing it, but
I think it's on the previous screen, isn't
it? Organization alert. Duh, right there. You check the box and you can put alert in here. So this is your note, and it'll show up as you're making a request or an event for this organization. But it shows up with just the label called alert that would, you'd click on and you'd be able to see that note. So, but that's as close as we've got to that. So a little note field. So let's see.
David's got a question. Can we add diagrams uploaded by requesters to the email confirmation? So I don't know if you've seen this, David, but when you do attach, so in Mazevo, you can attach a room diagram to a booking. Now, if you, I think it doesn't matter how you attach it, if I'm remembering correctly. It shouldn't matter. So when you go to create the confirmation for the event, the person viewing the confirmation will see there's a link and it says room diagram right on their confirmation. If they click that, they're going to get the room diagram. I think Dean's going to maybe.
Oh, here's one right here. So
yeah.
So this has got, both of these bookings have room diagrams on them. So when I generate an email, it's going to be.
You're on the BEO there.
Oh yeah. So which one is it? This one?
Very bottom. Yeah.
Oh.
Need to get. Yeah, I think this one will work. Yeah. I got to remove some of those so it's easier.
Yeah.
You got way too many. There we go.
Oh, come on. There we go. So right here, David, is the link. So when you send this to the user, they have a link there and they can click on that and it'll actually pull up the diagram for them. So, but yeah, when you send it, that's the way you could do that. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're through our questions here. So, and we're just over our time. So thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate the interaction, great questions in the chat. Thank you for those. Hope this was helpful for everybody. We're going to have a great Mazévo Connect coming up for you for next month. So stay tuned. We'll send out a notice once we get all the details finalized on that. But in the meantime, thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing y'all next time.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.